Welcome to the IndyLARP podcast, a podcast about the classic world of Darkness, focusing on LARP and Mind's Eye Theater. We'll be doing various segments to help both players and storytellers alike. Enjoy. Tonight's podcast will focus on answering some questions like, what is the classic world of Darkness? What is Mind's Eye Theater and LARP? Where do I fit into all this? And we'll take a look back at some past Indianapolis LARPs. Then we'll finish with some FAQ and upcoming events. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Just what is the classic world of Darkness? Well, the World of Darkness is a gothic punk setting using the storyteller system that was published by White Wolf from 1991 to 2004. While not a real game line in its own right, it is a shared setting with a myriad of other games, such as Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Mage the Ascension, Wraith the Oblivion, Changeling the Dreaming, Hunter the Reckoning, Demon the Fallen, Mummy the Resurrection, and then each of those have some sub-genres within them, and then you also have the Dark Ages, World of Darkness. It was created by Mark Reinhagen back in 1991. Him and some other guys got together and went, hey, what if we make this game that's all gothic punk-like and use the real world as the base setting and then throw in some vampires and werewolves and other creatures that go bump in the night. And then lo and behold, there you have it, the World of Darkness. Unfortunately, I think they only planned to run it initially 10 years. And then in 2004, they brought out what was dubbed New World of Darkness, and then they started referring to the previous setting, which was simply known as World of Darkness, as Classic or Old World of Darkness. And during the several years that they ran it, they had different themed years, like 1995 was Year of the Hunter, and that's when Hunter the Reckoning, I think, came out, or some such. And they did things like that. I take it back. Year of the Reckoning was 1999. That's when Hunter the Reckoning came out. But nonetheless, they had these different things, which some of them coincided with releases of various games. Most of the classic World of Darkness games use a system of archetypes to represent the character's personality. An archetype must be chosen for the character's nature and his demeanor. Nature being what he truly thinks and feels, and demeanor is what he wants people to think that he thinks and feels. It's the mask that he wears. The nature of the person determines what he must do to gain or regain his self-esteem and determination. Some creatures, particularly mortals and Garu, which are werewolves, have the same nature and demeanor. The changelings have instead a Seelie and Unseelie legacy, which is basically like a good and bad. And there's another one that's Adheen. I'm not sure what they are. They have 3 of these, so I'm not even going to really go into that. But of these archetypes, many of these archetypes are printed in various source material, and sometimes, depending on the setting, some old archetypes would be given a new name. Like, for example, one of them that I remember, there was Architect, and then that was in the vampire setting. Then you go to the werewolf setting, and it's called Builder. But it was the same thing. But anyway, to summarize, in the classic World of Darkness, you can be a vampire, a werewolf, a magician, a ghost, a mummy, or demon, various other creatures that go bump in the night. And you get to act and interact with other creatures that go bump in the night, but usually of your same subtype, whether it's vampire or whatever. Because most storytellers tend to run games that are all the same genre. You're going to see vampire games, werewolf games. Rarely will you see a game that has more than one genre together. But sometimes it may be that genre with some of the subgenres. Like, for example, with Vampire the Masquerade, they have Kindred of the East, which are vampires from Asia. Kindred of the Ebony Kingdom, which is the vampires of Africa. And they may run a game that incorporates both of those, or one of those, generally, which could be very fun and interesting. Just like with Werewolf the Apocalypse, you've got the werewolves, and then you have other creatures, spiders, snakes, coyotes, foxes, the list goes on and on. And some games, again, will be just the werewolves. Other games may be just one of the other were creatures, or they may have a game that has all the were creatures available, or any number variation thereof. I hope this answers the question, what is the classic World of Darkness? I do know that currently books are being put out for it by Onyx Path Publishing, as licensed from White Wolf and CCP. In 2011, they revamped the line by coming out with Vampire the Masquerade 20th Anniversary Edition. Now they're doing Werewolf the Apocalypse 20th Anniversary Edition. They've also done some supplement books for Vampire, and they plan to do some for Werewolf. They've also gotten with a company, Drive-Thru RPG, and now they have some of the classic books, like Laws of the Night, available in what they call print on demand. You order the book, you tell them you want a paperback or a hardback copy, they send it off to their little printer, and it prints the book and sends it to you. Or you can just download the PDF, which is what a lot of people do, because they want their little tablet at the game. It's quick. It is quick and easy reference, especially if it's a good PDF that you can search. Then you can go, oh, I need to find willpower. So you type in your search willpower, boom, it takes you to page 138 or wherever the page is. Very handy. The biggest thing with the classic World of Darkness that I like is the setting just seems better. As I've played in classic World of Darkness, I've played in the new World of Darkness, and by far the classic World of Darkness has the better setting. There's more story. Cain is the progenitor of the vampires. Yes, that's right, Cain, from Cain and Abel, the biblical story. He is the first vampire. The werewolves are all creatures created by Gaia, which is Mother Earth. Some of the other ones I'm not quite sure of their origin stories, because those two are mainly the ones I've played in, so I know the most about vampire and werewolf. I know a little bit about mage. I know that rules-wise they're a pain, but as far as they can be a lot of fun, because a mage can do almost everything, or almost anything. But one person put it best to describe mage, from the quote from Aladdin that the genie says, "Phenomenal cosmic power, itty bitty living space." And that's pretty much what mage is. You have all this power, but you can only use it under the right circumstances. But nonetheless, I hope that this little bit answers what the classic World of Darkness is. And you may sit there and go, well, what's gothic punk, and what's some of these other words that you refer to? Well, let's take a look and see what gothic punk really is here. Gothic punk, it can refer to many things. For example, this is very dry. It's from Wikipedia, so it's the term may refer to the synthesis of goth subculture and punk subculture. I'm not sure if you're familiar with either of those, punk and goth. Goth is usually they dress in black and they wear black makeup and they're into BDSM and gothic literature and horror films, and sadly they don't really know what gothic means. I mean, Bram Stoker's Dracula, that was gothic. They combine those elements of goth with the elements of punk, which was very unique. Punk was something that came out in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia in the mid-70s. The Mohawks, the spiked hair. John Savage described this subculture as a bricolage of almost every previous youth culture that existed in the West since the Second World War, stuck together with safety pins. Because it is something that punk people tend to wear a lot of metal on their clothing, chains and safety pins and patchwork clothing and mohawks, shaved heads even, spiked hair. The biggest thing they have in common, though, they all wear black. Generally speaking. Not always. I don't want to stereotype. But when you merge the two, when you have gothic punk, then you end up with a myriad of things that usually portray to gloom and doom and noir and various other things of that nature. It's also the gothic aspect in World of Darkness. It refers to the ambience of the World of Darkness, while the punk aspect refers to the lifestyle of the World of Darkness. Everything's in a state of decay. As a matter of fact, the LARP I ran was called Decadence and Betrayal. Because when I think vampire, that's two of the things I think of as decadence, which is the decay of things around them, mainly due to their stagnate power, and betrayal. A vampire will stab a person in the back in a heartbeat. But nonetheless, I hope that this little part right here answers what is the classic World of Darkness. So now, I am going to move on to our next little chapter, as it were. Segment number 2. This is what is Mind's Eye Theater and LARP? Well, Mind's Eye Theater is a system for live-action role-playing, which is also known as LARP, in the classic World of Darkness. It's based loosely on what's called the storyteller system, which is what the classic World of Darkness was written in, was storyteller system, and now the new one is storytelling system. While the setting is identical with the tabletop books, the rules are heavily modified for ease of play during live-action play compared to the storyteller system's tabletop focus. In a tabletop game, usually you have dice. You've got pens and papers and dice and more dice. In LARP, you don't have that. You've got rock, paper, scissors. You've got props. You've got things that help aid the imagination in thinking up these aspects and scenarios that you're put into. The main product lines for Mind's Eye Theater were Laws of the Night, which was Vampire the Masquerade, originally published as The Masquerade. Laws of the Wild, which is Werewolf the Apocalypse, originally published as The Apocalypse. And then there's other Mind's Eye Theater lines, source books, such as Laws of the Hunt, which is pretty much Mortals. It's a general purpose World of Darkness book. Laws of the Ascension, which was Mage the Ascension. The Oblivion, which was Wraith. The Shining Host, which was Changeling. Laws of the Reckoning, which was Hunter the Reckoning. Laws of the Resurrection for Mummy. And Laws of the East for Kindred of the East. Unfortunately, they didn't do a Demon the Fallen LARP book, which would have been really nice. And then there were other books, the Book of Props, Dark Epics. They were intended for use in any of the Mind's Eye Theater game books. Although, when they were published, they had the Masquerade theme and borders and whatnot inside. And then, for a little period of time, there was the Mind's Eye Theater Journal, which is actually what inspired me to do this podcast. I love the Mind's Eye Theater journals. They were a magazine that was published 8 issues from 1999 to 2001. They were published quarterly. Each issue covered various topics from multiple game lines, as well as advice on gameplay, coordination, or costuming that could be applied to in any MET LARP. MET being short for Mind's Eye Theater. The line as a whole concluded with Laws of Judgment, which was adapted and truncated version of Time of Judgment scenarios for Vampire, Werewolf, Mage, Changeling, Hunter, Kindred of the East, Mummy, as well as Ends of Empire, which was the final Wraith source book. Then a new Mind's Eye Theater book was later developed for the New World of Darkness, which I will not go into in very much detail. I do not like the New World of Darkness, and this podcast focuses on classic World of Darkness. But Mind's Eye Theater is something more than just these collaboration of books. I mean, sure, they enable you to play in a LARP in these various settings that White Wolf has created, but it seems like it's more than that. Yes, you can make your character and it tells you how to storytell, but as a whole, LARP is just so much more. Which also I'm proud to announce, as you may or may not have heard, Mind's Eye Theater for Classic World of Darkness has been licensed to By Night Studios. I look forward to seeing their stuff. I hear they're going to be doing essentially 20th anniversary version of MET. And honestly, they need to kind of improve the system a bit. Rock, paper, scissors is a bit of a pain in the ass. It's a 1 in 3 chance of survival, and if you have things like win all ties, it becomes 2 in 3 chance. Throw the bomb gives you 2 in 4 chance, or 1 in 4. I don't know how the odds work. Anyway, it could use a little work. But as far as LARP, though, you sit here and you hear me say the words LARP, 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 L-A-R-P, LARP. It's short for live action role playing, L-A-R-P. It's a form of role playing where the participants physically act out their character's actions. They pursue goals written within the fictional setting, but represented by the real world. While interacting with each other in character, the outcome of the player's actions may be mediated by game rules or determined by consensus among players, or in some cases, the game master or storyteller, as White Wolf calls it, may decide that, hey, this is what happens, and you may not necessarily have a say in it. But generally, a good storyteller, if they're going to do that to cut down on the amount of time that things are taking, they're going to sit there and go, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Here's what I propose happens. And then you either say, sure, that works, or no, screw that. I don't like that. I want to go with this outcome. But at the same time, don't be a whiny butt if you don't get your way. Unless you really think that your character could have taken the guy, then by all means, pull the storyteller to the side and go, hey, I've got this power and this ability and this and that and the other, and I really don't think this 98-pound weakling could have taken me. But it is what it is. You may find yourself saying, I thought LARP was, fighting swords and shields and medieval stuff. And yes, there are a lot of LARPs that do that. SCA, Society for Creative Anachronisms, is one of them. There's also a handful of others. They're more of a Dungeons & Dragons style LARP. Well, here's a fun fact for you. The first recorded LARP in Australia was run in 1983 using the science fiction Traveller setting. I don't know if you played Traveller. I think it sucked. But whatever, to each their own. In 1993 is when White Wolf published Mind's Eye Theater. And that was what really set LARPing into the mainstream. It's still played international, and it's probably the most commercially successfully published LARP. Today it is popular activity in North America, Europe, Russia, and Australia. And various other places. There are large games with thousands of participants run by for-profit companies. However, most of your Mind's Eye Theater LARPs are run by a local Joe Schmo storyteller. He's going to have an upwards of 50 to 70 players. I've seen that. I've seen bigger ones when you get to conventions. And usually it's not for profit. The only money they're going to make is to cover their costs and expenses. Although on occasion you do have the shady storyteller that will charge money and keep said money and it will not go to anything. But yeah, hopefully this answers your questions as to what is Mind's Eye Theater and LARP. Segment 3. Where do I fit into all of this? Well, that's hard to say. It really is. But at the same time, you fit in because you're the player in the game. You're the one that helps in making the game fun for everyone else. You bring a unique character into the game for people to interact with, maybe form a rivalry with. Maybe you are a linchpin in an arch nemesis. Anyway, you form a linchpin in a nemesis plan. You can do a lot of things. As a player in a LARP, the most important thing is to have fun. Go there, play, focus on story, focus on your character. Don't focus on the rules. I get sick of so many players that play a game and they make their character the epitome of badassness by the book. Look, I've got 97,000 physical traits, can win all ties, throw the bomb, hit you with a rock, and beat you with a hammer at the same time. To me, that's not fun. To me, what's fun is one character I played that I had an immense deal of fun with was what was called a Giovanni. He's pretty much a mobster, mafioso type. And I got to mess with the most powerful, politically powerful character in the game, the Prince of the City. And things got so bad. They're like, "Hey, we're going to put you on trial. Here's all your charges." I forget what they were now. This elder vampire is your defense attorney. My Malkavian, which Malkavians are loony, Primogen, which is the head of the clan in the city, is going to be the prosecutor. And when I heard that, I laughed. I couldn't help but laugh. So they have this courtroom. This court goes on. I didn't have to say a word. Everyone else spoke on my behalf. I didn't have to say anything. And then they found that I was not guilty because people are dumb sometimes. They believed everything that I spoon-fed to them, and then when they spewed it back out to them, it was the truth. So anyone that checked them for lying, well, they were telling the truth. But it was fun. I eventually got killed, character-wise. Obviously, I didn't get killed or I wouldn't be sitting here talking. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun playing that character. So, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, you fit in as a player. The player is the actor on stage, to use a theater term or a play term. You fit in creating the story. Now, granted, you have the storyteller, which is the one that tells the story and adjudicates rules. But, the storyteller should not be that active in things. They should kind of step back and go, "Hey, I'm going to see how this runs on their own. Let's see what the players can come up with." And then when you get players that are using influences and stabbing each other in the back, characters stabbing each other in the back and using their influences to screw each other over, it can become immensely fun and humorous to watch. When you take a step back and you realize that player A is buying player B's house out from under him and then is going to have it bulldozed in the middle of the day so they can kill them, to me that's funny. But then you get the occasional player that takes it a little too seriously. Their plans went awry. They get ticked off. They yell and scream and throw a fit, and they leave. I don't like when players do that. I never have. I don't understand why any player does that. If I knew why, I would have all the answers, but I don't. But, anywho, and that's where I see the player fitting in, is making the story. Well, now I'm on to segment 4. Sadly enough, I thought I was going to have an hour and a half, but I'm only at 27 minutes right now. But hey, whatever. If I can get a half hour out of this, I'm good. We're going to look back at some previous Indianapolis LARPs and even into the present and the future. Back in 1993 when The Masquerade came out, a lot of LARPs started up. Well, actually, I only know of 2. I'm sure there were more. But there were 2 main ones that stuck out. It Indy by Night, which was ran by numerous different people over the years. Several people have ran that game over the course of its, 6 years of running, or something like that. Yeah, it was about 6 years running. The Masquerade was a full-size book, not the little pocket-sized books that they have now. And it's focused on the vampire setting. It wasn't overly clear with the rules. It wasn't very thick of a book. But it got you by. It basically told you, hey, take this tabletop book and here's some changes you can make to make it work as a LARP. Then you also had The Becoming of Darkness, also called T-Bod. They played on the other side of town. Basically, you had Indy by Night on the south side and T-Bod on the north side. And between the two games, you probably had 200 players. Maybe not quite that many, but a lot. Each game had quite a few players. Indy by Night at one time got up to, I remember distinctly, 75 players. Glens Valley Park down off Bluff Road was full. It was packed. The house was packed. The yard was packed with cars. Anyway, but it was fun because you had a lot of different personalities to interact with. T-Bod up on the north side, it was an apartment complex. I remember there easily being 50 people there playing different characters. At one time, they had a mortal become the prince of the city, which is the head vampire. And all that was done through role play. I mean, the character played this character in such a way that people believed them. And it was amazing. But yeah, I remember my first character I played in 1996 in Indy by Night. He was a Nosferatu. Lucky Luciano, he was the gangster. The 30s gangster, not what they have today. He had underworld influence. He controlled the underworld. He was amazing. I loved playing that character. Stabbed my Primogen in the back, literally. He ended up made him go do something stupid to a Giovanni that was really powerful. It was hilarious. He got killed, needless to say, and then I became Primogen. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. The person that got me into LARPing, though, was Gary Mudd. Haven't seen him in a while. He's kind of here and there and what have you. But nonetheless, so yeah. Then I went, a couple friends of mine that I'd met through, I believe it was the Game Preserve when it was the Greenwood Park Mall, played Battletech. Rob Jordy and Brian Steppe, and they introduced me to T-Bod. I went up there, I played a Gangrel, and I had no clue what a Gangrel was. So I was thinking, Gangrel, gang member. Totally not what they were, but whatever. I wore cowboy boots, it was kind of silly. But I had fun. That was the biggest thing. I had fun, aside from my feet hurting. But hey, what can you do? Those games lasted for quite a while. I know Indy by Night, about 1999 is when it died. I could be wrong on that date. No, it had to have been before then, because after Indy by Night, a gentleman by the name of Chris Power started a LARP that ran about, if I remember correctly, it was about 2 years. Either that or he took over Indy by Night, one of the two. But Revised Edition came out in 98, I believe. 98 or 99. I know he ran that, so I want to say it was 99 then when he took over and played his game, ran his game. So I think before Revised came out is when they quit playing Indy by Night. With Chris Powers' game, it was Jihad, the Indy Chronicles. And it was a lot of fun. I played a caitiff, which is a clanless vampire. His game was 99% vampire. He had a little bit of this and that thrown in there every so often. But anyway, played a caitiff, became the head of the Malkavian clan, and then got killed. Then I played a Giovanni, who then got killed. Then I played a Malkavian, who then got killed. You see the recurring theme here? Eventually I stopped playing the game, as did everyone else, and the game folded in early 2001. Then in December of 2001, I started a LARP that started out as the Covenant of Indianapolis, and then after a year, the progression of the storyline led me to change the name of the LARP to the Syndicate of Darkness, and then it ran all the way through to 2005. When I handed it over to a friend of mine to run because of my work schedule, I couldn't run anymore. And he hit the big reset button, and that's when the player base literally cut from 45 to 50 players down to like 10. And that's one thing, if you don't learn anything else, learn this. As a storyteller, do not talk about a reset. If you're going to do one, be discreet. Don't walk up and go, "Oh, big red shiny reset button." No, the easiest way to do it, you want to reset things, kill off characters. I know it's kind of shady, but it doesn't draw the attention as quickly until after you've already done what you needed to do to fix your game. But after the Syndicate of Darkness died, and it was a great game, it ran, for 4 years. We had werewolves, vampires, mages, mummies, changelings. We had everything. I think somebody played a demon, a wraith, various other things. We had everything. It was truly a World of Darkness game. There was a lot of personal stuff that went on. There was also a lot of rules lawyering and cheese dicking and dumbassery that went on. But hey, everyone had fun. And everyone had a lot of fun. And then it seemed like there wasn't much of anything that happened after that. I mean, there was the Camarilla Fan Club and One World by Night. But a lot of the troop players, as they're called, didn't want to go to these games. Until finally there were no independent games. They ended up going to the Camarilla or the One World by Night and went, "Hey, this ain't so bad." Until the bad got worse. I played in the Camarilla Fan Club. I didn't like it. They have a number of systems that do not promote role play. They promote roll, R-O-L-L, play. But that's because you'd have players that would design a character concept based on something like a sword. "Oh, my guy has a saber, a rapier. He wields 2 of them and fights with them, and you know what? If I take those away from you, you can't do scrap." So, yeah, some people just come up with the dumbest ideas. And players like that should not be rewarded. But clubs like the Camarilla reward these players for stupidity. But enough me bashing the Camarilla. I'm supposed to have one of their members on in another podcast, so I don't want to do too much damage before we get there. And who knows, maybe this person can change my opinions of the Cam. Now it's known as the Mind's Eye Society. One World by Night is kind of cool. You don't have to pay anything to join. You don't have this long, lengthy, drawn-out process to do one simple freaking thing. That was another thing I disliked about the Camarilla. Nonetheless. Yeah, and then there was a werewolf game that ran... I don't remember who ran it, that I ended up starting up one that ran about a year. It was more of a sit-down style LARP, meaning we all met together, we all sat down in Arsenal Game Room and played. And we sat and we talked, and we still did all the LARP things where I'm brutally punching you quick enough to dodge, throwing rock, paper, scissors, describing what we're doing. But at the same time, we were sitting down, we were comfortable, we were having a good time. We ate our food, drank our drink, and had a good time. Well, that finally eventually died off, partially due to players didn't want to play werewolves. They wanted to play were-coyotes and were-foxes and other were-critters, and I didn't really want to let them play those. So then they're like, "Okay, well, fine, I'm not going to play." And I was like, "Okay, fine, well, I didn't need you as a player to begin with." But that may not be the attitude to have. But then, in 2011, I decided I wanted to start up another LARP. Gen Con had just happened. I started the weekend after Gen Con, and had a decent turnout for a first game. I had like 12 people. We were at Arsenal Game Room. We ran there for that one game, and only the one game. They stopped holding LARPs there because of other LARPs stiffing them on bills and making a mess and just really screwing it up for everybody. So I found a little place downtown. It was on the 12th floor of a building, the top floor of the building, and you had a great view of the city right there off of Market Street. Man, it was wonderful. And then the guy we were renting from screwed us over, and we ended up lucking into a location at German Park on the south side, thanks to one of the players I had. His grandmother, I think it was grandmother, was a member of the Turner's organization, and they have a building there on German Park that we use, and that One World by Night currently uses for their Sabbat game. And then as far as like current LARPs go, you've got One World by Night has a Sabbat game. The Camarilla, or now it's called Mind's Eye Society, has a Camarilla / Anarch game. Two of those, one here, one in Franklin, and a Sabbat game in Franklin. There's a Cam Vampire, Cam as the sect of vampires, not the fan club, troop game down in Franklin called Immortal Chronicles. There's a Cam Vampire, as in the sect again, LARP held by JP up here in Indy. Then there's also a Werewolf the Apocalypse LARP started up by some members of One World by Night. If I'm not mistaken, they haven't fully integrated into the club, so it's like a trial basis kind of thing, but they have a really good concept. You run the Moot, the Grand Moot, the big get-together of all the packs once every 3 months. And then each month you run an individual pack game. Your pack, your group gets together and with a storyteller and runs a game. And that'll be delving into personal things like your pack's totem, finding a magic item, whatever. He's got personal plots he plans to do with each of us, and hope we draw everybody in. There's also a Sabbat Vampire LARP independent game run on 4th Saturday. It's kind of waning a bit right now. Its numbers are down, but I think they'll bounce back up. It's not a bad game. I actually play a Malkavian in that game, one of the crazies, who is a bishop, which is a higher-ranking member of the hierarchy. And there's 3 of us bishops in the city. There's me, my friend Caleb Slocum, and they call him Trooper. His name is Mike Tolentino. So we're the bishops, and then Daniel Holton plays the archbishop. So it's a really cool game. But nonetheless, that's all I can think of for this look back at the Indianapolis LARPs. Now I'm going to move on to segment 5, FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions. Well, unfortunately, nobody really submitted any questions for the FAQ. But, there are some questions that you get when you run a storytell, when you run a game. And one of the ones I got, I had a staff member misspeak and call it truncated combat. So I'm going to say, what is truncated combat? Well, there's no such thing. It doesn't exist. However, it was referred to by a staff member in my most recent game that I ran. It was combat straight out of the book, exactly how it runs in Laws of the Night, and I think even in the other Laws of series. It sucks. As an ST, don't do it. Do it the way it's been done for years. In the book, the way combat works, it doesn't work. I'm punching you, so therefore your action can only be a physical action, so you can either dodge or punch me back. Then we throw at the same time. I win, I succeeded, you failed. Or you win, you succeeded, I failed. It becomes annoying really quickly. And then it screws people on their initiative. If I'm punching you, you couldn't try to dominate me. So, it just doesn't work. But anyway, that's all for the Q&A for this episode. Hopefully, we'll have more questions for the next episode. But here's some upcoming events. We've got several LARPs going on over the next month. We've got on the 26th, which is this coming Saturday, tomorrow, Here There Be Monsters. It's a Sabbat Vampire the Masquerade LARP run by Danielle Freeland. The game runs from 6 p.m. to midnight at the Prospect Masonic Lodge, which is off of Troy and Meridian, just north of Troy on Meridian there. The cost to play is, I believe, $3, or it could be $5. I could be wrong. And that goes toward paying for the site. Then February 2nd, which is the first Saturday of the month, we have 2 games going on, one here in Indy, one in Franklin. Trials of Night is a Camarillo Vampire the Masquerade LARP run by Josh Board, otherwise known as JP. And it runs here in Indy. Then in Franklin is Immortal Chronicles. It's Camarillo Vampire the Masquerade LARP run by Alex Bicknell. Both of these games run from 6 p.m. to midnight. The one in Franklin's held at ADL Games. There is a cost to play, and it pays for the site, but I don't know. I believe it's $5. Same with the game up here in Indy that Josh is running. It is also $5. It's from 6 p.m. till midnight at the Prospect Masonic Lodge. Again, that's at Meridian in Troy. February the 9th, which is the second Saturday, is Indianapolis by Night Sabbat Vampire the Masquerade LARP. It's run by One World by Night. The storyteller's name is Ben Sigmund. It's a pretty fun game. I've been there. They run from 6 p.m. to midnight. Currently, they're at Turner's building in German Park, but that may be changing. Part of it depends on their attendance. If the attendance goes down too far, they can't afford the site because it's $125. But they do charge $5 a head so that they can afford the site, but they need 20-something people. February the 15th, which is the third Friday of the month, the Mind's Eye Society, formerly known as the Camarillo Fan Club, has a Sabbat venue that they run in Franklin. And that also is at ADL Games, 6 p.m. to midnight. And then they run a Cam Anarch venue here in Indy. I don't know where. I assume 6 to midnight, but I don't know. I don't have a time or a date. Actually, the one in Franklin may not even be 6 to midnight. It might be a later time because of it being a Friday night. February 16th, which is the third Saturday, again, we have Trials of Night and Immortal Chronicles. Same times and locations as the first of the month. And then February the 22nd, which is the fourth Friday of the month, same night as my podcast, we have Mind's Eye Society running a Cam Anarch venue in Franklin at ADL Games. Again, I don't have the cost or time. I assume $5. I assume 6 to midnight, but I could be wrong. You know what they say about assuming. Nonetheless, that is all for the podcast. And I look forward to seeing and talking to everyone next time around. Have a good night.